Good day, viewers. Welcome and thank you for joining us. You're watching Open Studio on Cape Town TV. I'm Danny Kambo. I've got Mr. Ellen with me in studio today, who is living his best life despite the fact that he is HIV positive. So, here to raise more awareness on the matter and also to speak to us a little bit more as to how we can live a healthier life and also, see everybody else in a beautiful light as it should be is Mr. Ellen. So, sir, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Danny. Thanks for welcoming me, and it's great to be on the show. I look forward to the session.
Oh, you're welcome. So, for those that's watching at home, can you just give us a brief description about yourself? Where you're from, where you grew up?
Right, I actually grew up in Somerset West in the Cape, so I'm a Cape boykie, but I live in Joburg for my sins. I don't know why. Since I started working, I'm an old toppy now. Yeah, and I basically am a chef by trade. So worked for many years in catering operations, and then eventually, due to what occurred, I moved across into employee wellness, and today I actually work for myself as an employee wellness consultant with my own company, Positively Alive.
Oh wow! All right, so that is positive. I mean, being your own boss is what everybody wants these days. We want to be our own bosses.
You can give yourself leave when you want to.
Oh yeah. So we're living in a month now, which is HIV month, a month of December. So tell us what does this day mean for you?
It's the 23rd year since being diagnosed with HIV this year. And so I've been living with HIV for 23 years. And I just going back to 1997 when I was diagnosed, I remember that at the time, while there was plenty of information, and while I certainly had plenty of information, I thought um, when you get diagnosed with HIV, you're suddenly overwhelmed with how little you really do know. I mean, questions like, well, am I going to die tomorrow? How long do I have? What's going to happen next? Those were the things that were on my mind all the time. And another thing that was also on my mind continuously is the fact that all I could really think about was ABC, because that's back in 1997, that was the focus. Abstain for what? Be faithful to whom? I was single. And condomize. And so immediately you sort of got an overwhelming sense of guilt and shame. And I went into silence about my status for 3 years, just because of those feelings of anxiety, self-stigma, etc.
Wow. And I mean, you mentioned anxiety, and when one is diagnosed with this virus, you become very self-conscious, self-aware, and even though people do not know about it, it's just the fact that you have it, puts you in a whole different mindset. So how was it for you dealing with this problem?
It was for me initially, as I always mention those first 3 years as my 3 years of total down spiral into silence and withdrawing into myself. Um, and then I got the diagnosis in 1999 that I had 18 months to live, was diagnosed with AIDS, and told that basically my life was over. And it was at that point where I just went, this is totally and utterly bizarre. It made no sense to me that that would be the way in which one responds to a life-threatening disease. Any other disease, you would tell somebody. With HIV, you go into internalized stigma and you silence and you hold it all within yourself. And so that's when my journey began, because instead of just giving in, I fought back. And uh, for me today, if I had to share just one anecdote that I'm always sharing, is to overcome that internalized stigma. That's the thing that kills you. For me, was forgiveness is the path to self-love, and self-love is the key to inner healing. And I had to start a journey, and that's what started in 1999.
I mean, for you to easily say that you can forgive is really a great character to have, because I mean, this virus does affect you for life. it does affect you for life. So, if you don't mind me asking, Mr. Allen, is there any family members that you've got, and how was it for them, hearing that you've got this problem and that you are dealing with it? How has the support system been for you?
I've actually was a married man. I've got two daughters. I'm actually a gay man, but I was married for all those reasons back in the 90s, of not accepting myself. And luckily, at the time when I got divorced, I hadn't infected my wife because, well, the simple fact that I wasn't positive at this stage. But I've got two daughters. So part of that journey that I mentioned not only was the forgiveness, but also then the disclosing to loved ones. And I remember when I told my daughters that their response was one of just open arms and total acceptance and love. And I think that I was very blessed because that probably added a few years to my life.
Yeah. And I mean, it's always important to have the support structure. Many people within our communities, they are struggling because they are all alone and the feeling, there's not that much support. What message do you have for someone out there that is feeling alone? Because you mentioned that one of the best ways to deal with it is to accept it. But what message do you have for someone out there that is all alone, no support, and have to deal with the fact that they are HIV positive?
I think that the first thing is yourself. You can't disclose to others unless you are in a space where you have overcome your own inner demons, and whatever that is. For me, it was a process of forgiveness and forgiving myself for allowing it. Actually, I remember forgiving the virus. I couldn't talk to the virus, but I forgave the virus because I didn't give it permission to come into my body, but here it was. So it was first myself. Then the moment that you disclose to others, I always say you never disclose in a vacuum. You Once you've disclosed to somebody, they've got to deal with that in their own time.
Yeah.
And I just always think that when I'm chatting to people about disclosing and they're asking, should I tell a family member? My question is always, why are you wanting to tell? And what are you wanting to achieve by
Telling them, Mr. Allen. Yeah, this is a very sensitive one, and I really want everyone that's watching to really listen to you and not having to hear you rush through it, because we're going to go through a short break quickly. So if you don't mind just holding on to that thought when we come back and we continue with that conversation, if that's okay. All right, thank you so much, sir. For those that's watching at home, guys, stay tuned. We'll be back after this. All right, y'all, welcome back. You're so watching Open Studio right here on Cape Town TV. I'm Danny Cambo. I've got Miss Helen with me in studio. We're speaking all about health and how to accept, your health status. Mr. Allen, for those of you that just tuned in, is HIV positive, and he's using his life story to inspire and empower others, to live in the truth and also become the best version of themselves. So once again, Mr. Allen, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Danny.
Oh, you're welcome, sir. Before the break, we spoke about how, the advice that you have for those that are living with HIV and how they can, accept it, even though they are feeling alone. You are giving them an advice as to how they can manage and handle it. If you don't mind, just continuing with that conversation for us.
Yeah, we were talking mostly about disclosure, and I was saying that you don't disclose in a vacuum. People then respond to your disclosure, and they need time to adjust to the news that you've told them. But if you're ready to do that, asking yourself, why are you disclosing to this person, and what do you want to get out of disclosing to them? Would they support you? And we always talk about it must be family, but there's such a thing as extended family. Those people that you know in your life have always stood by you. Those are the people that you want to disclose to.
Yeah.
And what I really want to recommend, for many, many years, I kept on saying to myself, why is there no support group? And I was specifically speaking about men because, oh my word, we don't go and look for support.
Yeah.
And we use it in a very limited way as well. And I kept on moaning about that. And eventually I thought to myself, you know what? If it's to be, it's up to me. And that's why I started the Positively Alive free support network for men in South Africa. And we've got over 800 members now. It's an online website. And not only do we have the online side, but we also do meet monthly as well.
Okay.
So finding support, whether it's external from the family or internal, is critical. You can't deal with this on your own, and you shouldn't deal with it on your own.
Wow. And I mean, there's one misconception also that many people have is that once you have HIV, you are not going to live long. And yeah, you have shown us that that is not true. You can still live a healthy life despite the fact that you've got the virus. So how have you lived? What have you done to make sure that you start looking as good as you're looking now? Your skin start looking beautiful. What have you done to look this good?
I was also on World AIDS Day in an event, and I remember it was also virtual. And the delegates just wouldn't believe me when I said I was 61,
Oh, wow.
and that I've been living with HIV for 23 years. They just wouldn't accept that. They said, you don't look 61. But yeah, that was good for my ego. But
Yeah, you definitely do not look 61.
but the important thing for me is that health and wellness is holistic. You can take ARVs, and in 2004, I started taking antiretrovirals. Antiretrovirals has done some amazing stuff for me. I don't have to worry about my HIV anymore because HIV is totally managed and controlled by popping a pill every day. That's all. That's all I've got to do. But then that wouldn't make me well and healthy. It's about my mind. It's about my decisions that I make on a day-to-day basis, and the food that I eat, exercise that I do, engaging in healthy activities.
Yeah.
So, and getting rid of some of the bad stuff. I used to smoke 40 Daniel a day. How do you take ARVs to live, but then you're smoking 40 Daniel a day? I had to say, well, I've got to make a decision here.
Yeah.
And I stopped smoking.
Wow.
And I mean, once your mindset is correct, once you know that I have to do this in order for me to achieve this result, and in your case, it was life results. If you want to live long, you have to do such certain things, and you had to follow through with it. And I think, like you mentioned, it's very important that you get your mindset right.
Yeah. And I think that it's also important. So the mind, yes, very important. Absolutely. That's why I started off with forgiveness being the path to self-love, and self-love being the key to inner healing. Those are the internal stuff. But, there's also the practical side. I've got a host of health issues. I've only got one kidney, which is a challenge with ARVs. I've got a heart condition. I've got a blood clotting disorder. But I manage all those conditions. And it's so wonderful because World AIDS Day, the South African government has got the theme, we're in this together, Cheka Impilo. And Cheka Impilo means check your life, know your health. And when you know, and we look at living in a time of COVID-19,
Yeah.
now it's so funny because I've been speaking to people and I say, but aren't you scared of getting COVID and succumbing to COVID-19 because you've got so many health issues that would make it very easy for you to end up in hospital and as succumbing to COVID. But the answer is no, because all of those conditions are managed and under control. Cheka impilo. I know what's going on and I'm taking the right steps to live healthy.
Yeah.
So therefore, I have got no additional risk from COVID-19. The only thing we can't fix is my age.
So having one kidney, has that been because of the virus that you've got, or is it because of your lifestyle that you had in the past?
It was actually not. It was not to do with the ARVs, but indirectly, I think an overwhelming amount of taking vitamin supplements, and so I ended up with basically a kidney failure on the one kidney. What's wonderful is that I've got a very healthy second kidney, and your body can function 100% perfectly. The big thing with ARVs, and people also, this is maybe a good lesson for your listeners, is that people keep asking me, can you drink alcohol when you're taking ARVs? And the challenge is not the alcohol. It's the fact that the alcohol goes through the liver and the kidneys. So it's got to be expelled somehow when it's done its job. And the same with ARVs. So you're putting pressure on your liver and you're putting pressure on your kidneys. So that's the only reason why. So drinking a glass of wine is not a problem. Drinking a bottle of brandy is not a good idea.
No, that makes lots of sense. Wow. Thank you very much for that, sir. That was an informative piece of information you just gave there, because alcohol is a major issue. But we're going to take another short break for those that's watching at home. I urge you guys to not go anywhere. We'll be back after this. All right, guys, welcome back. You saw watching Open Studio, and it's still me, Danny Cambo. I've got Mr. Ellen with me in studio, who is living with HIV. He's here to teach us a little bit about how to live a healthy life despite, your medical status, your health situation. Because at the end of the day, we all just want to be looking and living healthy. So once again, Mr. Ellen, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Tony.
Oh, you're welcome, sir. So, we mentioned a lot about, your background. We mentioned a lot about what you're currently going through, the support structure that you had and you continue to have, living with HIV. So you mentioned that you've got a company and also a website in way in which you assist and, you create a network of people that are seeking support within or during the difficult time of having the virus. So can you just tell us a little bit more about those two, your business as well as the website?
Yeah, so Positively Alive is the name that connects to Alan. The reason for that is that in 2005, I wrote my storybook about living with HIV, and the book was entitled Positively Alive. So my company is Positively Alive.
Yeah.
My company is really an employee wellness consultancy, and I assist corporates in managing wellness, including HIV, in the workplace. The Positively Alive Support Network is a free support network for HIV positive, gay, bisexual, transgender men in South Africa. So easy to look up. It's simply positively-alive.com, and all the details are there of how to join and what the requirements are. Yeah.
So once you get to these corporates and you speak to those people, what does it entail? Are they a step-by-step process that you take them through, or is it a one meet? Is there a follow-up? How does it work?
It depends really what the corporate is wanting. Very often the corporates are wanting training for their wellness team. So because empowering people, when a corporate's got a wellness team already established, they need to basically empower those members to be able to engage with their fellow employees around health and wellness issues. And interesting how that is really the silver lining of HIV, because most corporates started doing HIV in the workplace because of the epidemic HIV and AIDS, and have now progressed to holistic and employee wellness. I remember the first time when I was appointed as in this position, my title was the AIDS manager. I mean, can you imagine being called the AIDS manager? And that was eventually changed to employee wellness manager.
Okay.
That just sounds much better.
Totally.
So tell me,
so with having, there's another misconception that once you've got HIV, you've got AIDS. Can you tell us what are the difference? And once somebody has HIV, are they able to live for long? And like you mentioned, you are living healthy because you are being disciplined in taking your ARVs. You are disciplined in your health and wellness. So just give us some clarity as to the difference between someone that's got HIV and someone that's got HIV and AIDS.
So really, AIDS refers to the syndrome, which is a collection of different diseases and symptoms that can appear because the virus HIV has compromised your immune system, that your immune system is unable to fight off those diseases. HIV refers, of course, to the virus, which does all that damage.
Yeah.
So when we're talking HIV, we're talking about a virus. When we're talking AIDS, we're talking about a syndrome. I was diagnosed with HIV, and then, of course, as I mentioned, 1999, I was diagnosed with AIDS for the first time. Didn't go on to treatment because it wasn't available, but changed my life. And in 2004, when I was diagnosed with AIDS a second time, I went on to ARVs. And you know what's so amazing is that today in 2020, being on treatment not only keeps you healthy and alive, but keeps the virus under control to such an extent that you become virally suppressed. And virally suppressed literally means undetectable. So that when I go and do my blood tests, I test um, uh, the virus in my body is at such low levels that it doesn't show on the test. And that then refers to as undetectable. And here comes the double whammy. It means also that I cannot infect my sexual partners with HIV. Now, I know that you think, well, sexual partner 61, come on, man, you're old now. But I met my partner in 1997. So we've been together for 23 years. And all of those 23 years, I've been living with HIV and my partner is negative. And my partner today is still negative.
Oh, wow.
On treatment, undetectable, cannot transmit to your sexual partner.
Wow.
So that you need to know your status. You need to get onto treatment and stop the spread of HIV.
Yeah. And it takes lots of discipline and lots of hard work. And I mean, you're a living testimony of this, and I salute you. So for those that's wanting to get a hold of you, that's wanting to come and seek your services, or just get more information about HIV and how to live a healthy life when you've got the virus, how can they do so?
Well, I would say the best way would be is ALBRAND at iafrica.com would be the email address. I am also on Facebook and Twitter. Maybe we can share those little handles. And of course, through my websites, because on the website, there's all little links if you want to send me a message. So that would be the business one, would be www.positivelyalive.co.za, one word, all smalls. And then the support network is www.positive.
Yeah. Wow. So now that we are almost at the end of the show, so for those that's watching at home, what message do you have for the young people, the ones that's wild? We're going towards December, some tends to lose their minds a little and, go crazy. What message do you have for those, young people out there?
Like to share is not consider that your life decisions and the things that you do have consequences. So when you think about the consequences, what can you do to prevent yourself from becoming infected? Now we don't have to even stick with condomize because it's not even necessary. There's such a thing as PrEP, and PrEP means that you can access, if you know that you're high risk, and you know that you've got a risk, and you maybe cannot negotiate condoms on wherever you're going or in your life, you can access a pill that you would take daily, which is called PrEP, and it's pre-exposure prophylaxis. And you need to know your status first of all. I'm negative. You can then access PrEP and take that pill on a daily basis, and that will prevent you from becoming infected with HIV by taking a pill a day.
Wow.
We are in a totally different place today than we used to be many years ago.
Wow.
Thank you so much for that information, sir. And thank you for coming to the show and sharing your story with us, and also giving some light into what many are in the dark about. So for that, we salute you and we appreciate you for that. And for those that's watching at home, I thank you so much for being part of today's conversation. Thank you. And I hope you've learned something here today, that once we go out there, we can play it safe, be safe, to protect ourselves and others. So yeah, once again, we've come to the end of the show, and from my side and the Cape Town TV crew, and thank you so much once again, Mr. Allen. Until next time, everyone. Bye-bye.